Welcome to episode 260 of The Center Ring, presented by Alt, and this is going to be the best episode ever. Counter-Strike is back, baby. The glory child is back. We can finally talk some real esports. We have ValoRANT, new heroes. Is Shroud going to be a pro? We got tournaments. Going to talk some ValoRANT. And, the Dallas Fuel has completely blown up their roster and coaching staff. So we're going to talk some Overwatch and Dallas Fuel here to start. And, of course, e-news to end the show with. But before I get to that, let me tell you about the show sponsor, Alt Esports. If you haven't heard about them, you definitely should. You've been living under a rock, and quite frankly, you've been wearing the wrong clothes. Alt is the #1 esports apparel company. And just don't think, esports apparel. You know, I don't want to wear esports when I'm out. I want to look good. Well, that's what Alt is for. They make you look good, but also repping the brand. You want esports, you want to look good. It's all in one. You go to altesports.com. You can pick up a 101 Burglars hoodie brought to you by yours truly. Future more TCR collabs to come. So those are in the works. Teaser alert. And you can pick up the Overwatch League Doodle. You can pick up E-United stuff, CLG summer stuff. It's all there for you on altesports.com.
Hey, this is Arrow, head coach of the Dallas Fuel, and you're listening to The Center Ring.
Okay, so let's start.
Whoa.
Hello, everybody. Hello and welcome back to another edition of The Centering, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast presented by Alt. Episode 260, coming to you live and or pre-recorded from an undisclosed location. The date is August 5th, 2020. The time, 8:37 p.m. Central Time. Don't think we've ever started this close to on time. So, congratulations to us. Follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring and get all the updates there. Join our Discord. The link is in the description of that same Twitter account. Hit us up on YouTube, youtube.com/The Center Ring. Subscribe. Have some fun stuff coming out there as well. And, just be a part of the conversation. If you're listening on iTunes, why don't you go ahead and smash that 5-star review? Or whatever. Be honest. We do read the reviews there. We do like reading them. So, whether or not they're funny or whatever, we would greatly appreciate it. Hello, my name is Tim. I'll be your captain for this journey into esports. And alongside me, as always, is my best friend, my brown friend, my hoe. It's Anuj. What's up?
Rejoicing with Counter-Strike, baby. That's it. Just so happy that it's back in the light. It's like that time of the year when only baseball is available, and then finally, NFL preseason kicks off, and you're just thrilled,
Really?
And that's how it feels right now.
That is the perfect way to describe it. Like, baseball does its job. It does what it's supposed to do. It carries us through the summer, the dog days of summer. But let's be real. We're all just waiting for the next sport to start. So we appreciate it. We appreciate all other esports out there, but Counter-Strike is back. So we'll talk some DreamHack Summer Open for you. And you know what? I don't even care if the tournaments are all split by region. I don't care. Anuj.
I'm just happy it's back.
I'm just happy it's back. I'm just so happy it is back. I will say this too. All right, I want to propose an idea to you. All right. This is our first official show of August. I think last episode was in August, technically, but we just did the esports tier ranking, which, by the way, I've gotten some positive feedback. I think we did an okay job. I think we got.
I haven't heard any compelling arguments to move somebody around too much, which I think is good.
Yeah.
It seemed most people kind of agreed with where a lot of them laid out, so that was nice.
Yeah, I mean, I still I don't know if I feel great where Melee was at. Maybe it was a 1 too high at the moment. Maybe Street Fighter was 1 too low. But overall, I think we we nailed it. I think we did a
think
good
the-
job. Good
I think
feedback.
the Apex community is the only community that really hates us right now.
The Apex community needs to look themselves in the mirror and just realize you're one BR away from being PUBG. You are
This new game might knock him out.
Yeah, you are one BR away, Apex, from being the next PUBG. So enjoy that while that lasts. But it is August. It is officially the worst month of the year. It is in the dog days of summer. It is hot as balls. It's 2 showers a day time of year here in Texas. If people are going back to school normally. Now some people are going back to school with COVID. It just overall sucks. Like you said, it's leading up to football, but football is not really back. But you're like in that ramp up mode where you're getting excited for sports in the fall, but it's not the fall, it's just August. So I want to make August the official TCR month of positivity. For the month of August, if me and you, and we'll have to hold each other accountable, and so will Twitch chat, say anything overly the top negative, because of course this is an opinionated podcast, so we have to be truthful. But if we're over the top negative, we have to then come back and put some type of positive twist on it.
I'm excited to see what you do with our first topic.
I think I can work it. I can work it. But for an example, like I still can't believe Blast is going through with the Neon partnership, despite all the backlash that Riot got and then obviously bowed out of it. And now you're starting to see, first off, I'm going to give ourselves some credit. Can I pat myself on the back here?
Please do.
Because we called out the CS community for not being vocal enough to Blast, and I feel like they've kicked it up a notch the last couple of days since the last episode.
Really, just today. I mean, like even today, I've been fairly vocal on Twitter about this whole Blast situation. I feel like I'm calling them out every day. And today, finally, like some talent came out and spoke out against them. But that really did. I mean, Scrawny was almost the only one up until today, even Sir Scoots. But beyond that, there was really nobody stepping up.
And so I think that I can't believe it, right? I think it's kind of ridiculous that they're still in this situation when it's like you have people that you've worked with, what I would think Blast would consider on a professional level friends, saying this isn't right. However, I commend them, positive twist, I commend them for being committed and dedicated to the deal.
Like to their new partnership.
To their new partnership, to the new friendship. I commend them. I commend them for also thinking of their employees about not getting beheaded if they end that partnership.
You know, they're laying low on Twitter. You know, they're not getting involved in Twitter drama. That's a positive.
Yeah.
You know, they're just not saying a damn word.
They told their social media guy, just delete the app for now. Just delete Twitter for now.
People stepping up and speaking against them. That's a positive spin on it.
Yep. Bringing the community together.
Their strength and dedication to their partners.
So there you go. And they make Flashpoint look good. So
that is true.
And that hasn't really
Blast
happened.
went from being what we were considering the best out of all of the leagues just a few months back when they were going through their tournament spree that they had there to they couldn't they are making ESL look really good right now.
Yeah.
Like ESL's handling
ESL
of a lot
was
of
kind of
the initial league stuff. They're making them all look good.
Yeah, ESL was the bully of the bunch, and now not so much. Not so much. So there you go. That's Positivity Month. Positive vibes only starts right now. So let's get into our first topic of the show. And look, I know we don't talk Overwatch League a whole lot anymore. We used to talk about it all the time, but this season has been a little lackluster, as we've mentioned on the show before, to no wonder. But we have had a shakeup in one of the premier teams. And when I say premier teams, I mean fan base wise. A lot of people have been asking and looking at this for I would say since the beginning of Overwatch League. And that's the Dallas Fuel have officially, I think, have turned the page and are ready to look forward to changing things. Just in the matter of 1 week, they have dropped their head coach. Well, I'll go in order. First off, they dropped Decay. Decay came on the team. For the most part, a lot of people thought he was going to be a starter. Really he was more of a bench player when it turned out. A lot of people upset saying you're wasting his talent, blah, blah, blah. Well, it came out this week that he just straight up stopped practicing. He didn't want to work with the team anymore. So Mike Ruffell, now the CGO, Chief Gaming Officer or Operator, whatever the acronym was, I forget, which is basically a fancy way of saying he's the top GM. Like, he is now, like, yes, they have a GM of the team in Tasmo, but I think, don't get it twisted, I think now Mike Ruffell he's the puppet master of the teams now under the Envy umbrella, okay, including Empire and things like that. He's going to have the final say. So
yeah, for sure. Like, he's going to be the top dog when it comes to making any roster decisions across all of their esports, I feel.
Yeah.
Like, it'll go through him ultimately.
Right. So you have that, okay? And a lot of people are upset about it. I get the frustration behind the Fuel fans. I get it, because you came into the Overwatch League Season 1 with you and Soul Dynasty were touted to be number 1. Like, it was going to be one of you. We're going to be the champions. Of course, Envy was coming in with, Fuel used the Envy roster plus a couple additional players that were only supposed to make it better, right? They added Siegel. They added XQC. Like, how on earth could it get any worse with them? Obviously, that didn't work out. So the expectations for the Fuel have always been high. Like, even though they've been one of the worst teams in the league since it started. Like, even going into Season 2, because they ended Season 1 on a high note. So Season 2, this is it. The Fuel are going to change. Nope, not so much. And it's pretty much been a rinse and repeat in Season 3. So when you have a player, especially one that's like kind of a billboard material player, saying he's like refusing to practice, I would have to...
That's your death wish.
Like, your hands are tied at that point.
Yeah.
You're out. Like, there is no... And if I was an owner, right, if I was a GM, there's like no negotiating with that, right? Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, you don't want to practice, Decay? All right, well, what if we make you a starting player? Then would you play? Pretty please, would you practice then? Like, that's not how that
just
works.
Asking to be cut. Like, there's not a whole lot you're going to do to convince that type of player. Like, he's not, Decay is not Allen Iverson, right? Like, you're not that good. So if you were maybe the superstar of the team and you were doing everything, well then, hey, maybe they'll find a way to make this work. Not that not practicing is okay, but they'll be more willing to resolve whatever the issue is. When you're semi-contributing at this point and you're a nuisance to the team or bringing down morale, whatever it may be ultimately, that's an easy decision to make.
Yeah. So there was that. And everyone was super pissed about it, saying, like, you got, the players aren't the problem. Stop blaming the players. And although I agree to a certain extent, then all of a sudden the news dropped that they dropped Arrow, head coach of the team. Now, to me, in my opinion, long time coming. Coming. I've even mentioned it on the show that the Fuel were just not creative enough in a game that demands creativity. If you are following the meta, if you're just doing the cookie cutter what the top teams are doing and you're not a top team, you're not going to all of a sudden beat them at their own game. You have to find a way to be creative. And for whatever reason, the Fuel just never worked. They made notoriously horrible in-game adjustments, in-between map adjustments, everything like that from the get-go. And that was with Jane on the team, right? I thought it was worse with Jane when he was the assistant coach. And Arrow, look, we've met him. We know him. He's a good dude. There's no doubt about it that I think the players want to play for him. But that doesn't defeat the fact that they weren't playing. Like, they just weren't performing, and eventually the coach has to fall on that sword, and Arrow just avoided that, I think, a little too long.
They found no consistency in any of the seasons, right? In Season 1, it was a late run to a meaningless, like, fourth quarter run, when you're already down by 21 at that point. Like, there just wasn't enough there to redeem that season. Kind of the season one was just a shit show in general for them, right? From where it was supposed to be. Even last year, it just never really, we talked about in-game changes, making maps, and that's something that you always kind of harped on, that they didn't do enough, right? Like
Yeah.
you knew what to expect when you played the Fuel. Like this is what you were going to get. And now to see them this year, they're sitting, 13th towards the bottom of the standings. It was a matter of time. Like at some point, you got to just get a fresh look. Like, look, Arrow did really good when he was coaching the World Cup team, but he also had the 5 best players in the world
Right.
on the World Cup team, like showing up for him. There just wasn't
the World
enough
Cup,
there to like save his job, unfortunately.
I think the World Cup kept him around a little, like that bought him this much time.
Yeah.
Like I think they would have been out a lot earlier, or he would have been out a lot earlier had that World Cup not happened. Because let's be real, like it's tough to fire a coach after he's walking in with a World Cup trophy. Like that does earn him a little bit of time.
Yeah, like had they got eliminated early, right? Like then that's not there on your resume, right? Not even if you're not the winner, like if it just is a bad showing. But it probably bought him a little bit of time. We've just never seen that translate to the Fuel, though.
No.
Like unfortunately, it just never translated over.
No, for whatever reason, the Fuel have set a record at this point of players that have had to been let go because of behavior issues or being just suspended. Right? It's just they've drawn the short straw on that one. And I think that's partially just because, when you take a risk in signing some of the players that they have, like XQC, you signed Siegel, which at the time was coming from a streaming world, former pro, went streamer, going pro again, which is always a risky business because you don't know where their head is at, right? That's part of it. And then you now have just, an hour or two before the show, more drama with the roster as they've released Harry Hook now from the roster for offensive, basically a private conversation was leaked, and he was calling women hoes and bitches, and long story short, then they cut him. They cut him from the roster. Now I'll say this. In a world where I get on a video game and I am called and I hear every single word in the book thrown out in one single match, I find it hard to believe that you are going to cut someone for them saying someone's a hoe. Like, I get that we live in 2020 and it's derogatory and, is it the smartest
like
call?
Misogynistic tweets that he had. Like, it was the fact that he continuously repeated it and threw it out there and showed no empathy or sympathy towards what he was saying. Like,
that's what it was. That was the nail in the coffin. I don't think, like, you can suspend someone for that, but you're talking about a pro. I don't think you're going to kick him off for that. Now, first off, I think Harry Hook was also one foot out the door. Like, I think he was probably going to get let go at the end of the season anyways. So this probably just expedited that. But yeah, I mean, he just came off very cold and unapologetic of the situation, where a normal person, I think, would be like, hey, it was a private conversation between me and someone, and, I was using language with who I thought was a friend, and, we're all like that, right? We use different languages when you're talking with a friend because you're a little loose. They understand everything's a little different. And I think it was just ultimately his refusal to apologize that did it.
Yeah, but even like reading that chain, I didn't look at it as somebody that was having a conversation with a friend. Like, he was just, you could tell she wasn't feeling what he was saying from the very beginning, right?
Like, hey, you calling someone a whore is misogynistic, and he was like, meh.
Well,
deal
people
with
are
it.
whores. It was like stuff like that. I mean, again, I get it. People talk differently with their friends, but he obviously had no ability to read the situation that was happening. Yeah. And on top of that, obviously he's using, it looks like his Discord account that has like Dallas Fuel, Harry Hook on. I mean, it's like, come on, guy. Like, be semi-professional here and understand what's going on. But he wasn't able to do that. So now he's gone, and we see a kind of a a refuel here, in terms of what this team is going to look like going into next year.
Yeah.
There's just so many questions for the league, now for the team. Like it gives them the ability to at least start moving on now and not waiting for the offseason.
Maybe that's a blessing in disguise, right?
Yeah.
This is after the roster signing period, so they're not going to get anyone new. Like the roster that they have now, it is what it is. You would have to think AKM is out after this year, right? Because he's pretty much almost said it that he wants to just go pro in ValoRANT at this point. And maybe that's why Envy hasn't announced. They have they announced a full roster for ValoRANT?
Yeah, they did.
Okay, so maybe you'll see AKM in a Envy jersey here in a little bit. Maybe they'll make adjustments there, but I think ultimately this might be a blessing in disguise if you're a Fuel fan, right? That's how you look at it. That's your positive twist on this one. It's a rough week to be a Fuel fan, but you knew this was coming. I mean, you've had 3 losing seasons. Changes
needed to happen for them. 2 out of these 3 were unexpected, though, right? Like in the sense of Decay not practicing. You can't anticipate that.
Right.
Harry Hook being a shitty person in messaging. Like, you can't predict that stuff happening. So it was like unexpected, but it was things that ultimately might, be good in terms of being able to set your roster up going forward, finding a new coach whose philosophies are going to work better for you. Gives them a little opportunity to shop here.
Yeah, definitely, 100%. All right, so let's get into some ValoRANT talk here with our ValoRANT segment. Get it? The original ValoRANT, if I want to throw that in there. All other ValoRANT and rantings are subject to copyright infringement. You could speak with our lawyers, and when you do, tell them that we need to talk to them.
Yeah.
That's true. That's actually true. All right, so let's get into some ValoRANT discussion because Act 2 has started, and with Act 2, we've seen a new hero take shape with Killjoy. We have seen Deathmatch enter the playing style, so I think that will just help the player base and everything there. Roster moves, rumors, new tournaments. I mean, where do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always fun to start with the fact that we have a new character in the game. Killjoy being the new addition. Now, unfortunately, we're not going to see him used in the Ignition series going on this weekend with the FaZe Clan tournament. But he's an interesting character, right? There was whatever.
Sir,
I don't judge people that way, Tim.
Oh,
so
positive twist.
There you go.
Positive twist. You don't see gender. You don't even see it.
It's just we are they. And so with Killjoy, she has some abilities that unfortunately are a little bugged right now. Her turret that she has can be seen through the walls with the SOVA scan and things like that. So it also aim locks through people on walls. So if you use it properly, you can tell when somebody's on the other side.
An auto-aimed mechanic can see through a wall? Shocked.
Yeah, so like a couple of these things need to be fixed out, but I like the concept of the new character. And that even kind of includes Reyna, right? We didn't talk too much about Reyna when she entered in Act 1. But both of these characters have some really unique gameplay. Questionable, right? Like we always talk about abilities shouldn't kill. Well, when somebody has an auto-aim turret, you feel like that's kind of going against what they say. But I want to see how much damage it does, how effective it is in high-level play. But I think they've done a good job. Like I think adding a character each act, these acts seem relatively short, right? It's not like we're waiting 6 months in between them. Mm-hmm. I think that's good. I think maps is the next progression. We need to see maps a little bit more consistently, but getting a variety in characters, I don't need to see 4 in act, right? But like 1 in act feels good. It feels refreshing to me.
Yeah, because I mean, realistically, like you said, even if you go like every 2 months for an act, which might have been what this was, give or take, right? 2 months.
Yeah, it came out in June sometime.
Yeah. So I mean, that to me is fine. And even then, that's a lot of characters. That's six people a year. So I think that would be a lot, especially in an FPS type of game. That would be a lot.
But if they're going off of that League of Legends style, if they're using that model, in Valorant, then it kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Like, cause look at how many characters you have in MOBAs.
It's just so easier though in MOBAs because you have like laners and support. You know what I'm saying? Like you have those
They're only
roles.
going to have their balancing challenges,
Yeah.
right? I think this is a good way to distinguish yourself, though, from other games, right? Like people are like, oh, it's a CS:GO copycat. Well, guess what? Like having in a year from now 20 characters all together, like that's a good little pool for people to choose from, and then that's where like bans can start to come into play as the pools get bigger. So there's even that strategy. So I do like the frequency that we're going to be seeing that.
Yeah, I like that. I actually had a listener yesterday ask me when I was streaming what I thought of the skins. So I'll bring that up. I like the skins. Riot is high if they keep thinking that they can charge them for $70 for like 4 different gun skins. Absolutely mental. That's a lot. So I can't.
People will buy it, but it is a lot.
That is a lot, right?
It starts to get into that price point where you got to think about it a little bit as you're spending that money.
$20? Sure, why not?
But if you can buy an individual skin for like 15, $20, then in your head you start to think of like, well, wow, look at what you're paying for a Counter-Strike knife. You know, you could pay a couple of hundreds up to a couple of thousand depending on the knife. So then all of a sudden,
you can
$30 for a knife doesn't look that bad.
You can resell the Counter-Strike knife.
You can. So. And I think that would be the next evolution for them, is some sort of feature to sell a skin back for currency of some sort, even if it's just in-game. It's not like actual money, but an in-game currency to allow you to kind of shop in a store at some point, or have some mechanic to do that, because eventually you're going to stop buying skins, right? And I think the goal is to always keep you spending, or have to spend a little bit more. Like the buyback value maybe isn't as much. It's 75%. So guess what? You got to spend a little bit more to now go get the knife that you do want, or the gun skin that you do want. So, you know, that can all come with time. I think the appeal of the skins is awesome, though. Like when you can get them leveled up the way that they've done that system also to give a little bit more of a uniqueness to a skin, like they're pretty cool looking. They really, really stand out. You know, like
they're awesome. They're awesome.
Yeah, they look great.
So
visually appealing for sure.
Now, that being said, sidetracked, I want to talk Killjoy here for a second. Because with the way she was supposed to be in this week's tournament for FaZe, their hosted tournament, Riot did request that they say, hey, can you pull her out? Like, she's just not ready for tournament play. You know, like, we'll let her in the game and everything, but for tournament play, we need to pump the brakes on that, which I respect, right? As a dev, it's good to acknowledge that. But I think people kind of knocked on her for being like, oh, the turret seems like she seems very useless in certain situations, right? Understand how much utility that one turret will have in the game. Okay. First off, if you're a pro, you need what? A half a second, a quarter of a second to flick on someone, right? If for that 1/4 of a second, they look at your turret first, boom, that's a kill, right? That's utility. You can now, it's almost like a more effective cipher trap, because they're not going to be able to walk through that room. They won't be able to walk through, B short without dealing with that turret. So if they shoot at it or anything, now you know where they're at, right? And it also
without
can do
the turret
damage.
giving them away, right?
That's what I'm talking about.
You can't walk past the hallway even if you don't want to shoot the turret. Well, the turret's going to look at you,
Right.
so it's going to give you
That's
away
what I'm talking
in that
about.
sense.
There's no way to just get rid of it without being heard and or noticed, right?
Yeah.
And so to me, that is a utility feature with her that I think people weren't necessarily thinking. Like when you see the turret, you're instantly like, dumb. Like, we now have put an auto aiming mechanic into a game that you said you didn't want abilities to directly do that, right? And it only took you 2 heroes to get to that point. But I do think in that defensive stance, she is going to be super effective. On the offensive, where if you have the bomb down, her ult pretty much makes people 8 seconds useless, right? So it could almost be like a 5-on-1, and if you time it out right, you could still win with that spike being down.
Or even in the defensive manner, like how many times in a game do you see a timer get down to the last 20 seconds of a round before teams are executing onto a site? Well, now if you have that ultimate and you play it right, and you have to cause a team to rotate or wait, 8 seconds before they can get onto the site, that's also a game-changing ability. Again, it's always like the initial reaction that we hear and we talk about. I'm really curious to see how it all works in game, right? Like, what is the range actually of the turret light? Like, do you have to be kind of right on it for it to be noticed? How easy is it, like, noticeable by Sova's dart? Like, there may be several ways to counter it. Smokes being able to block it if you drop a smoke on top of it without activating it. So it'll just be really interesting again to see the dynamic. What we are seeing, Tim, is Riot's willingness to make changes, right? So this act, the only character that was nerfed and now removed from the game temporarily is Raze. Raze has some nerfs that came her way, the ability to do less damage from the blast pack, and I believe also, I don't think it was the grenade damage. It was probably that like little machine he sends out or whatever it's called.
The drone thingy.
Yeah, you do see them making changes to level the gameplay, right? We did see that with Sage early on, where they nerfed a lot of Sage's abilities. Now she's still heavily used, but she's more in line with the rest of the characters. So right now, I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt that they're listening. They'll continue to listen, and they'll continue to make changes to make gameplay fair, and we're seeing that. This is why Killjoy is not allowed in this tournament, because right now they understand it's a competitive advantage.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of FaZe's tournament this weekend, FaZe has announced some new roster. They are now Team Overwatch, as they have secured Baby Bay and Ruckus. They didn't waste any time picking them up with, I guess, officially this Jason R scenario with them.
Yeah, so like Jason R was brought on as the team captain. Him and Corey were the first two members of the team. Jason R was selected as team captain. He leaves 6 weeks into his contract with FaZe because he said he had no decision making over the roster, which as a team captain, I can kind of understand that. At the same time, like, I don't know if he was the right person in terms of being like, I'm going to give you full control of my roster either,
You're
right?
Jason R. You're like, let's be real here. If Jason R has that type of ego to be like, you're not including me on decision making, like, bro, you're captain in the sense of like locker room captain. You're not captain in the sense of we're giving you the keys to the car.
Difference between captain and GM, right? Like, I think Hiko should have more pull, but I'm pretty sure Hiko had no voice on his roster, on the 100 Thieves roster. Like, there's no way those are Hiko's choices. Which
you don't think Hiko was like, guys, there's these PUBG pros. Trust me. Trust me.
I feel like we see a move coming. It wouldn't surprise me to see Hiko want to be on a roster with like Counter-Strike pros. It just feels like that would make more sense. But the FaZe roster intrigues me. Having 4 Overwatch players, Corey we know is like an aimer. So you feel like he's going to do really well. Zachary probably the same thing. I'm curious to see how they all kind of mesh together. I think worst case scenario, FaZe has set themselves up to be able to sell this team to Overwatch 2 if things go bad early and at least profit off them in a way. So that's the positive spin on it. But yeah, it's an interesting roster. Like, it's one of the few rosters that is filled with Overwatch pros. We see Overwatch pros trickled in onto teams, right? Sinatra being blended into the Sentinels roster. There's like a couple here and there. But to be majority Overwatch, like, I'm pretty excited to see how that roster fares, because if they're really good, that also helps the stigma of Overwatch in some sense.
Yeah.
Of like, oh, okay, like, it wasn't just a bunch of kids playing with cartoony characters jumping around with shields. Like, these guys are, aim gods. So I'm pretty excited to see what they're able to do.
And so we'll be able to see that because, again, tomorrow, so by the time you're listening to this podcast, the FaZe Invitational would have probably started. And this is going to, like, this is not just your normal early on ValoRANT org invitational. this has like every top team in it. It's going to have FaZe. It's got TSM. It's got T1. It's got Sentinels, Cloud9, Team Envy, 100 Thieves, Complexity, Gen G. We'll throw Renegades a bone. Shout out Renegades. Detroit Renegades. Like, this is going to have the top teams in it. So, like, if you were waiting to have, like, a meaningful Valorant tournament with teams that are finally, like, established and not as many fill-ins being played, this is it.
Yeah, this is going to be an opportunity to start recognizing names, right? For those of you that are either unfamiliar with Counter-Strike, unfamiliar with Overwatch, like if you're only following one game, a tournament like this is really good way to get introduced to like players from different teams. You know, Envy having players like Caboose and FNS. Like people might not know them if they don't follow Counter-Strike, but yet those are like two very high-level like CS players with captain IGL experience. Obviously, like TSM, T1, Sentinels, I think people kind of know now and are really familiar with. And even Cloud9, like a player like Tens who performed so well in the last Ignition series, probably getting more known. But it is good to see a tournament like this with so many built-out rosters with big organizations. Like it's not a bunch of one-offs, and so I'm excited. I think this will be a fun event to follow. The Ignition series has surprisingly been good.
Yeah,
I've enjoyed it. I think that's probably been the best tournament flow so far we've had for Valorant.
Is it weird? Because this kind of just hit me as you're listing those names. It is weird that there will be people who know Hiko as a Valorant player, but not Counter-Strike. Like for me, he will always be a Counter-Strike player playing Valorant, right?
Yeah.
Like I will not be able to shake it for some of these guys. Like FaZe Clan will always be judged as Team Overwatch. It's just funny how some of these people who might not have watched those scenes are seeing these guys. I mean, look, and you know, our friend, our buddy of the show, Drone, right, on TSM. The guy is getting crazy love on Twitter. He's over 1,000 viewers now on Twitch. No knock on Drone if you're listening. But, like, in Counter-Strike, that just was never going to happen. Like, it just wasn't in the cards in Counter-Strike. And now that he's flipped over, obviously taking advantage of the situation, playing out of his mind, it's cool to see. Hiko the other day on Twitch had 40,000 viewers.
Never had that playing Counter-Strike.
Never. No.
Maybe
on the Liquid Major days. Maybe 5 years ago. But, yeah, it is nuts. So there's that, and then Fnatic has mentioned that they are holding off on entering Valorant until 2021, which I guess in reality isn't that far away.
No, it's not, but you're also seeing like all of the top teams sign players, so risky a little bit, I think, right? Like you're not going to get your pick of the litter, but there's going to be plenty of new talent at that point. And even looking at a tournament like this, right? If they obviously will probably go EU, but even if they went NA, there's like 4 or 5 teams on here that are what we would consider orgless, right? That they could pick up, and any one of these guys would want to go play under the Fnatic brand. So they will still have their choices. They're just not going to have like a full slate of like, oh, these are the Counter-Strike players we want, or this is the guy we want from Overwatch. So, interesting, but nothing crazy. It's not that far away. It's just 4 or 5 months away.
Yeah. So, I'm ready for EU to get in, and maybe Fnatic is waiting on Shroud, because this has been Dr. Disrespect drama gone. It's been dead to me. I don't
even care about it anymore. Do you?
No, like who? Dr. Disrespect? Never heard of him. Because you know who I care about now is Shroud's spicy tweets that I know are going to disappoint me. I know that. I know that these tweets are leading to absolutely nothing.
What do you think it is?
I mean, they're definitely Valorant tweets, right? Like, so what he's doing, if you haven't looked at Shroud's Twitter, is he's tweeting out very slowly, like one a week. Like these GIFs that are, or GIFs, however you want to say it. We don't discriminate here. Like little, like it's like a gun, and then inside the gun you can see like the video edited of Valorant. So now, obviously, of course, and it's like a little blue tinted, right? It looks blue. So the rumor is he's going to go pro in Valorant. I don't see that happening. If he goes pro in Valorant, you know what this is the equivalent of? This is Jordan going to go play baseball. Like, in the sense of, like, he's going to do it because he's Michael Jordan. He is Shroud. He's going to do it. But he has no reason to do it other than the fact that
he wants to compete.
He wants to compete.
Yeah, I mean, I hope he goes pro in Valorant. That would be spicy AF, dude. I'm not even joking. Like, that would be really exciting. Now, I don't know what roster. Looking at different teams right now, I was even trying to look at, like, what teams would make sense. We know Liquid is probably signing an EU roster, so that's most likely.
I thought Liquid said that they're signing an EU roster, but they've been teasing that they're going to announce it sometime in August as well.
Well, like, at the end of the day, Liquid could be like, oh, well, Shroud's available. Maybe we make an NA roster.
Shroud knocks on your door, you move in NA.
The team that made the most sense to me, just looking at the teams, like if somehow T1 had the ability to bring him on their team, right? Because that's Brax, Skadoodle, people he's very comfortable with.
Boy, I will become a T1. I mean, I'm already a T1 fan, given the fact that you got Skadoodle on there. Like, I'm already, like, T1, send me something. I will wear it on stream. But
do you think T1 is kind of the fan favorite right now?
You know, that's a good question. Let me tell you this first. Cloud9 only has 4 official roster members. Just saying. He could make the comeback.
Don't they have 5? They have Tens, Relics, Mitch, Shinobi, and Vice, right?
Vice is not on their official roster. He is still just a stand-in. He stood in for a lot of tournaments. He's been there a long time. So that would be, you know what, Vice? You can't even be mad at that. Like, if I was Vice and they're like, hey, bud, Shroud wants to play, I would be like, I will keep you in my phone book. Shroud is only going to stay for like a month, and then he's going to realize this sucks, and he wants to just go back to being a streamer, making millions of dollars.
You can be our 6th man right now, and then eventually take that
be
spot.
Our 6th man. You will come back in a month when Shroud realizes, like, oh, this is a lot more work than streaming.
But that team's made up full of CSGO pros, so again, that would be intriguing, right? Like, to see Shroud back on Cloud9. Look, for your sake as a Cloud9 fan, who is not a League of Legends fan, I feel for you. Because you've lost your team in so many esports. Like, you've lost them in Counter-Strike, which is almost like losing everything.
Yeah.
Right? To lose your team in Counter-Strike is like losing everything, because then it just becomes like the NA shuffle of who do you want to pick at that point.
Nothing, and I have ran into this issue a lot being a Cloud9 fanboy, is I'm wearing my Cloud9 shirt in public. And someone, because esports is big enough now that this happens, but small enough also where if you see someone with another esports shirt on, you're just going to assume you're best friends, right? It's like playing hockey in Texas. You're best friends no matter what. And like they'll be like, oh man, did you see the match last week? And I'm like, oh, I don't really watch League of Legends. And then it's like right there, the friendship's dead. And they just look at me like, oh.
Well, like, what do you root for then?
Yeah, like, well, you got to understand, like 3 years ago, their Counter-Strike team was the best in the world.
Now I can't even name 3 members of the team.
Now it's like, ugh, do they have a roster? I don't know. So yeah, I would love it. Even though Cloud9's been doing well with Valorant anyway, so I'm looking forward to that. But back to your question as far as being a fan favorite for Valorant.
I want to know who your favorite is and who your villain is right now. Because I kind of have my teams in mind.
Yeah, I mean, obviously favorite being Cloud9. I like TSM because of the drone factor, right? Got to root for the boy. T1 because of it's like former Cloud9 CS, right? So there's that. If I had to pick. Now, if you're asking me the finals of the major, who do you want to win?
When I say favorite, I'm thinking more fan favorite right now. Not favorite as in like who's the favorite to win any given event. Although that was a spicy topic on Twitter this week too, of who's number 1 right now in NA. You had people from Sentinels and people from you had Sabrosa from TSM and Zoms from Sentinels. Really trash talking back and forth quite a bit on Twitter. It got a little heated in that exchange of who's overall number 1, when I think that is just a ridiculous question to ask right now.
Yeah, it's so early.
For me, fan favorite would be T1. because of the Brax and Skadoodle factor.
It's either T1 or it's 100 Thieves because Hiko is so influential on Twitch.
See, I think 100 Thieves really would take that top spot if they had different players around Hiko.
Right.
Because the rest of the roster is relatively unknowns. So it's like then it's Hiko and everybody else, and you almost just start to feel for him, right? Like, ooh, is that really the roster he wants to be with?
Yeah.
T1 has kind of been there since the start. They also had Hiko for a period of time, kind of filling in for them.
Yep.
Where I think Sentinels is kind of
the villain. I think
taking the villain spot.
Sentinels are my villain for multiple reasons. Sinatra wasn't that likable in Overwatch League. Like, unless you were just a shock fan, you like he was, he's a very cocky,
brash, cocky, like
young MVP, like,
champion over, World Cup champion.
You can name
like
1,000 professional athletes that fit that same bill, and you don't like them for that same exact reason, right? And then to make the transition over, you are so arrogant that you're going to quit your MVP game that you are the face of the league for, and you just think you can come into ValoRANT and be a pro. Like, this isn't Doomfist, right? You don't have a Zarya here. You actually have to aim and get headshots. And he's proven, like, oh, go figure. I guess when you're a professional gamer, you can do that.
You're just good at gaming.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that if you could play for 40 hours a week, you could be good.
I think that's why the FaZe Clan group intrigues me so much, because I really want to see, like, do they sign these guys because of names, or can these guys actually play? Obviously, they're going to be good,
especially.
But I want to know how do they stack up against some of the best teams, and we'll see that this weekend.
The majority of the Overwatch boys that have switched over are all like DPS player Overwatch too. So like that's another, it's like Ruckus is like.
No, I get it. That's just not how we look at Overwatch.
Right,
I guess is what I'm saying. Yeah.
Well, season, early Overwatch, you would have said it, right? When Widow and McCree and 76 were actually useful, but yeah, no shields yet. No shields yet in ValoRANT.
Yet.
Just wait. It's gonna
They won't
happen.
do it. They won't do it. I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. They won't do it.
Look, you start releasing heroes.
If you're listening, don't do it.
Every character's every 2 months. Eventually, they're gonna have to get desperate and add a shield or something.
Somebody will have a self shield for like 3 seconds at some point.
Yeah, that's gonna have something. So there's that. There's ValoRANT coming up here, and other than that, Anuj, it is back. Counter-Strike is back. Real quick, let's go through some of these groups here for the DreamHack Open for summer. Would you like to start NA? Would you like to start EU? Would you like to do Oceanic? Would you like to break down the Oceanic from...
So I think we just focus NA and EU for the sake of our listeners.
Okay, all right.
Yes, Counter-Strike is back. I'm a little sad with the EU lineup, personally. Like, I really was hoping for a little bit more, but it's not bad, right? In Group A, we have
you have the number one in the world.
We have the number one ranked team in the world in Big. We have Heroic, Mad Lions, and Endpoint, all in Group A. Big really being the name that obviously stands out right now. Heroic sitting at 19, like not terrible. Mad Lions sitting at 23. Endpoint, I don't know if they're top 50 right now. Maybe they're top 50. They're not top 30. Group B, again, I'm slightly more interested in Group B, even though they don't have the top teams. I think Complexity and OG are very interesting teams. I want to see how they've kind of grown since the player break. Complexity kind of follow up on some of their recent success. Can OG find their stride finally, right? Like, that's a roster filled with massive names on it, and we've really yet to see them perform at a level that you would expect with the roster with NDK, Valde, Alexi B being the new star pickup for them. So they have a lot of talent. We haven't seen that roster really come together. And so the EU side, I just thought there was going to be, you're kind of hoping for a little bit more just with all the heavy EU hitters. Like, where, I don't know, this is the Open, so maybe that's why Vitality, G2, Fnatic, FaZe, these guys are not in the Open, and that's probably the reason for it. But still excited to have those boys back on the server.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because I know ESL announced it for who's like getting the next Road to Rio events?
Well, yeah, the
this-
way that that's broken down is by region. So like EU has DreamHack events, will be their Road to Rio points. NA has ESL. Asia has like Perfect World, and
Yeah.
then whatever the other region is has like Omelette or whatever
Okay.
that new group that's out.
Interested
So
with
yeah,
Perfect
they're,
World.
they're
The only
broken
time
down by
I've ever heard
partners,
of
they
Perfect
announced.
World is when they completely botched that tournament like 5 years ago.
Yeah, they'll be running Asia and Oceanic, I believe.
All right. So there you go. But this is not part of it, right? This DreamHack Open?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
I don't believe that this is part of the point. This is like to make the DreamHack Masters. That's why I also don't think we see like all the top teams, right? Like on the NA side, we have Liquid, Triumph, Chaos, and Zay Pug Gods competing in this event. Chaos was a last minute stand in. Group B for NA feels like the Brazilian squads, right? You have Furia, Team One, yeah, and then the only North American team in Cloud9 in that group, but 3 Brazilian teams. So again, like there's big names that you're missing out of this for certain reasons.
Right.
Um,
That also answers my question. This is not part of the Road to Rio then. Because if Chaos is there, Steel is there, and he cannot compete in
that's true.
major events. So there, that answers that question. This is not for any points for the major. I'm like I said, I'm excited. I'm just ready to see meaningful Counter-Strike again. I'm with you. This is somewhat of a lackluster. Now, on the bright side, you do have new Team Liquid, right? So we do at least get to see their roster, their new roster with Grim, since Nitro is no longer there. And if you had to pick a tournament to have a fresh new roster on short practice time, this isn't the worst one. You have a... I don't want to say like a powder puff event, but for Liquid, it should be. Like, regardless of the situation.
Just like it can be a catch-22, right? Like if all the top teams were in it and they lost, then you could be like, well, new roster, getting used to each other. Like Grim has to kind of work his way into the lineup. The other side of this is you don't have anybody really overly competitive in your group. So now you need to sweep through your groups and really not show any signs of struggle. Like I guess if you drop a map here and there, not the end of the world, but you definitely can't lose series to these teams.
Furia is the only one that you can honestly be okay with losing against.
And that's in the next. That would be in the next round, right? Like that's after they get out of their initial group.
No, they have to get out of groups. Like I said, I understand Nitro left, and I understand you have a new player, but that new player was like an up and coming top NA talent. So you should also have that, that confidence there. So yeah, the expectations to me are still high for Team Liquid. So regardless of a scenario here, you lose one player. Nitro is good, but he was not like, carrying that roster. It's not like you lost Simple. And now all of a sudden you have to regroup.
No, you lose a huge piece in losing Nitro, but yeah, I mean, you still have plenty of talent on that roster to where you should be walking through this group, right?
Yeah.
I'm just excited to see what Grim's capable of. I want to see him perform on this team early. Like, it would be great for them to get off to a fast start, because otherwise you start to doubt yourself. You start to question yourself as a young player of do you belong right now, right?
And we've seen that with these players that move on to Liquid and these top orgs where it's like, maybe they were pulled too soon and it just doesn't pan out right. So,
I mean, again, Grim's best performances have been in the online heyday so far of Counter-Strike, like the last 3 months, he's had his best performances. So,
and
again, it might still look good.
Positive twist might be what you need, right?
Yeah.
Build your confidence up online, and then so when you go to land, you have some, skins on the wall to carry through to you. So, I'm excited though. I'm ready for meaningful Counter-Strike, Anuj. I am absolutely ready for meaningful Counter-Strike, 100%. Actually, a good esports weekend, really, when you think about it. You have meaningful ValoRANT, meaningful Counter-Strike. You have QuakeCon this weekend. So let me get into that for a moment before we get into e-news. But QuakeCon is doing QuakeCon at home this weekend. We, as in the center ring, are going to be streaming off and on throughout the weekend. We both have kids. Let's be reasonable here, okay? But we typically late night, okay? So follow us on Twitch. If you're not the Center Ring on Twitch, we'll be streaming off and on throughout the weekend, especially at night. But we'll be streaming officially on the QuakeCon at home stream team. So that will be exciting. It's another reminder. Look, a lot of these events that have canceled, like DreamHack and things like that, which heads up a nudge, next weekend was supposed to be DreamHack Dallas again. So we're going to have to reopen that wound. But it's cool to see, like, they're really taking, like, you can join in their Discord for QuakeCon, and it's like they have done it up. This is not just we're going to move our presentation and conference online. Like, so at the start of the event tomorrow, like when doors would typically open, right? They're moving everyone to an inline channel and then slowly letting people get into their normal Discord like they would normally at QuakeCon. You know, like when you go to these things, they put you in a line. So, yeah, they're having fun with it. That's all you can do. So technically what we're streaming is like our BYOC LAN area. So I want to bring that, that fun there. We don't get to do it this year. We live down the street from QuakeCon, so we go every year. So this sucks, but
they haven't got to the tier list episode yet, obviously.
Listen, maybe they have, and they know. So we have the Quake Champions. I think it's their World Championship this weekend. So a listener asked me in Discord. They were like, "Oh, so-and-so the favorite?" Like, bro, I just gave it an F tier. You think I know who the favorites are? Like, I can't tell you one player for Quake Champion. Like,
no.
I don't know. Sure, whoever you want to win is my favorite. How about
That's
that?
the favorite.
How about that? So, but yeah, either way, so that's exciting. Unfortunately, we can't, what's it called? Like restream, because that would have been fun, I think, to watch with listeners and everything. But oh well.
We'll be streaming some games. We'll play a little bit of ValoRANT, maybe play a little bit of Fall Guys that came out. And things like that.
Buddy. We will definitely play Fall Guys. We'll definitely play ValoRANT. Maybe I'll get the new Doom or something. Shout out to a Bethesda game since it is QuakeCon after all. So yeah, no, that's great. That's great. You did get Fall Guy. You watched me.
It looks cool. I played it just for a couple hours, like an hour or two today, and it was fun. Like, it was fun to mess around on.
It's not like revolutionary, right? But it's for $20. I promise you, you will. If you're
good entertainment,
you will get $20 worth, and it's one of those games where they'll do a big update, right? Once they introduce player-created maps, I think it's gonna blow up even more. But like they were already saying, yesterday was their first day, and they had like 1.5 million, like 1.5 million players on the game. So. It's fun.
Good revenue day for them.
Yeah, big day for them. I ended up getting my first victory. It was pretty awesome. I was playing with Brett, former host of the Center Ring, RIP, and it was the final map where the blocks fall out from underneath you.
Oh yeah, you got to jump around them.
Yep, you got to jump around before they fall out from underneath you. 2 people left, Brett and me.
Oh man,
it was. And he didn't know I was the last one alive with him, but I knew he was the last one.
Yeah.
Whew, when I saw that victory screen pop, I gave it to him. I was like, what?
Come on, that one you really can't even see the other guy. You're just kind of jumping around and hoping like, oh, he fell. That's it. Like the victory sign will pop up.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely a fun game. Like cool little, like, especially with friends. If you got some friends you can play with, highly recommend it.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. I enjoy it a lot. So there's that. Let's get into some e-news here real quick, and we can wrap up the show. I will address something in chat, though. David asks, will the Center Ring Esports start will we start posting our betting locks on Twitter? Yeah, I don't see why not.
With Counter-Strike back, we should.
Well, that's the thing, right? With like Counter-Strike and ValoRANT, like I feel confident in betting those. Call of Duty I can bet on. I do pretty okay with that. You want to talk about, so since sports are back, you know me, I'm a gambling degenerate. Already doubled my cash pool with the NHL.
Isn't it might be canceled soon, I'm hearing.
The NHL?
Yeah, I heard that there was like some lapses there and
no, don't tell me that. I know MLB
sucks.
I heard. MLB sucks. Those players can't be
MLB is
screwed to save
screwed.
their lives. But in the NHL, ride that under. You smash the under. It is these players can't score for shit since coming back. Everything is just ride the under. Except for right now, I think Penguins and Canadians are up. But whatever. You can afford to lose 1 when you won 5. So it's unreal. Unreal. I've doubled my money so far. All right. So yeah, now that Counter-Strike and stuff is back, we'll definitely be doing a little bit more gambling for sure. All right. Let's get into some e-news, shall we, though? Big news out of Counter-Strike. Big surprising. What a way to start off Positivity Month with Pasha Biceps announcing that he is going to be a streamer for Team Liquid. What a out of left field, unexpected announcement.
But badass at the same time, right? Like, Pasha's one of those guys that's just loved by the whole community. Meant so much to CS. So just to have him like active and with a big organization, he's an ambassador for the game. I think he was in our what's it called? Counter-Strike Hall of Fame, wasn't he?
Yes, he was. That is a TCR Counter-Strike Hall of Fame inductee.
That's what the green jacket gets you right there. It gets you onto the stream team.
He was nothing. He was a washed up ex Counter-Strike pro, sitting lonely in the stadium by himself with no one next to him. You get the golden bomber jacket for winning or getting into the Hall of Fame. The phone is ringing off the hook, and now you're streaming for Liquid. So I would like to say congratulations and you're welcome. Also, how does Virtus Pro mess that one up? Right?
How did they not get him as part of the group?
How do you?
I bet that was probably an ugly ending over there. I'm assuming.
You think that was not the prettiest walkaways? Probably. You're probably right.
Probably.
Because how do you mess that one up? In Halo news, but not really Halo news, but in regards to it, George Kittle, the tight end for the Chiefs, right?
For San Francisco.
San Francisco? Okay.
Yep.
I knew it was one of those. Tight end for the... Look, the only reason I'm bringing this up is just to prove to a point that Halo is not dead. It is, the hype is there. Okay, people? This is why I gave it a D tier and not an E tier. He got like a full forearm Master Chief tattoo.
You know, the impressive part, it's not like he had a full sleeve tat where this filled in a gap. He had like one other tattoo on his bicep, but then his whole forearm was just Master Chief.
Cannot
Pretty
wait to see
badass
that.
looking tattoo.
It is going to be badass this season.
Yeah.
When he gets to see that. So that's exciting. Just again, it just goes to show. And I think he's probably like around my age. Maybe later, early 20s or something like that. But right in that Halo wheelhouse. So
you're not early 20s, so no, not around your age.
Well, closer to me than you, sir. Let's see. George
okay, that's not the point.
Kittle. Age. Wikipedia, 26.
Okay. Kind of close.
I have more interests. We have similar interests, is my point. So I feel like we're best friends. That's all I'm saying. So George Kittle, you're welcomed on the show and talk Halo anytime. In other news, do you want to save this one for Yikes of the Week?
Yeah, it's actually an easy one to do.
All right. Teaser. We got a Yikes of the Week already. So we'll save that for Monday's show. So tune in Sunday night so we can do that live. So that's Yikes of the Week material right there. From a familiar face. Permanent residents of Yikes of the Week. So we'll get to that. And BlizzCon has announced it, Blizzard has announced BlizzCon for next year, and they've already said that it's going fully digital. So this year was canceled completely, right?
Yeah.
Right? Okay. For a second, I thought we went this year.
I hope that, what would be cool, honestly, is if they made it just free for everyone to watch. And then if you...
I hope so. I mean...
pay if you want the extra goodies, maybe that come along with attending BlizzCon.
Right.
Or maybe, you're probably not going to get like the free gift and little things like that, but they can still do all the cosmetic items that they do for their games that you could pay for possibly, but make it free for everyone to watch. Like, you've had a rough go. You had 3 teams in C tier, or 3 games in C tier, if I'm not mistaken, from the esports tier list ranking. So make it free. Get people interested. Get people excited. Show off some Diablo 4 this year. Maybe launch Diablo Immortal. Let's get things moving a little bit
Let's turn the
here.
page, Blizz.
Yeah.
In the spirit of Positivity Month, let's turn that page, okay? Let's start being a little positive here, okay, Blizzard?
Overwatch 2 release date.
Yes.
Like, bring some positivity into our lives.
got-
Some good news.
You have the weapons. Just use them. You got what you need. Just use them. And people will forget all about everything. So, there's that. So that will be sometime in 2021 for virtual BlizzCon. All right. Well, that does it. That does it here for the Center Ring. Episode, what was it? 260. So thank you so much for tuning in. Whether you listened to the whole thing, skipped around, everyone in chat, thank you so much for tuning in live. It was great to talk to you. We will be back we're going to be back all weekend long streaming for QuakeCon. So be sure and smash that follow button on Twitch and even on Twitter at the Center Ring to know when we go live, because we'll be streaming most of the weekend, most at night as well. We got Yikes of the Week. Already got a Yikes locked and loaded, so you know that's going to be a good one. So that will be for Sunday night when we stream live for Monday's episode. But until then, that's all I got. Follow us on Twitter at the Center Ring. You know the deal. altesports.com. Pick yourself up a 101 Burgers hoodie. Keep an eye out for future drops. Before Nuge, I'm Tim. We'll see ya.